Hey everyone, welcome to the show tonight. I'm Dr. Asatar Bear, my co-teacher here, Leah Schaefer.
Welcome, welcome.
Our theme tonight is self-confidence and faith. And I've been meaning to do this topic for a long time, but I just wasn't sure about it. So I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh, so cute.
It's so important, right? The question is, do you believe in yourself, right? And of course, there's layers to that. um, Maybe you say yes about certain things and maybe no about other things, or maybe you
Mhm.
say yes but it's not a firm yes. It's not as firm as you'd like, and um, the touchstone for our tradition, the Sufi tradition, is Hazrat Inayat Khan, and he says this interesting thing. He says the true meaning of faith is self-confidence. So
Love that.
it's interesting, right? That
Yeah,
we're talking about the belief in oneself, right? That self-confidence, um,
yeah.
and then faith, the belief in the unseen. I mean, to think that you can do something, um,
Mm,
it's exactly the same energy, right?
so brilliantly said. And it is so interesting, like the what it brings in like this question of the self. And like I know that we like to distinguish between, my personal self versus like the universal self. But self-realization is like the realization of the universal within us, and it like kind of begs the question of like, what is self-confidence?
What is self, right? I know.
Yeah.
What,
And
what,
then
what
what
is it that you have confidence in?
right, exactly. And there is something to that, like when you have I often heard the phrase, is this a Hazrat Khan quote as well? It's God realization through self-realization? No, self-realization through God realization is the way it
Yeah,
goes. It's Hazrat Khan. And
yeah.
so, yeah, so this like, okay, so let me say it again. So self-realization through God realization. So that's really interesting because it's like once you have the awakening of your true self, then you are able to have a full self.
And true
Um,
self-confidence, right? But
yeah,
there's
because it,
but there's
yeah.
a missing piece of the self, that if
Hmm.
we only understand ourself to be the personal self, the limited self, that's not all there is, There
Yeah.
is a side to ourselves that is limitless and perfect and eternal. And
Mhm.
that's important, that puts our limited self in perspective. Um, and we can't really understand ourselves without that dimension. And because if we believe in ourselves, especially things that are big, right? If we believe we can do big things or become a great being, like that we truly are, right? That we are believing in unseen, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
really love that idea. And
Look,
there's
our
also
friend Shocker is here, just saying hello. Good to see you.
hi,
Thank you so
Shoko.
much for joining
Thanks for
us.
being here. We it's like also you need a self to have self-confidence in at all, there's it I think it's kind of maybe split. Some people there's a lot of this like emphasis on annihilating the false ego. Um they
Right.
they just skip that word false, but it's like what was the first consciousness? The first consciousness was I consciousness in from the absolute. So like that was the first ego. So like I don't like to I don't like to say the ego, I like to say the false ego. But anyway, so but it's like this like you would need an ego to annihilate it. Do you know what I mean? Like you would actually need a sense of self to annihilate it. And like so it's not always the case that we have even a sense of self. Some of us are so abused or neglected throughout our lives that it's like we don't even have a sense of self, or we just don't have the proper mirroring. It could even be that subtle. We don't have enough mirroring and we don't develop a sense of self. And so it's just this like interesting thing of like where do you start? Where does this all begin? In the other case, it would be like I have such a strong sense of self that it's limiting me, and now I'm trying to break that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Right. Like there has to be, I mean, when you're creating that sense of self, boundaries are hugely important, right?
Mhm.
Developing the idea to say no, right? I mean, like all of that is so necessary in creating that. The security, the
Mhm.
security is saying, this is where I begin and end. These are the things that are acceptable and unacceptable. I mean, you know, your boundaries can still be violated, right? I mean, but I think the problem sometimes, and especially, you see this in people who have gone through trauma, is like not knowing anymore, or
Yeah.
losing, that it becomes, not clear, um,
The
because you get
boundaries are not
punished
clear.
for putting, especially if you're a
Yeah.
child, right? You get punished for creating boundaries. So
Yeah, yeah, the boundaries are not clear at all. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, sorry, like that brought me into like a different like uh thought process. But
yeah,
it but even oh, okay, I wanted to say like even like knowing what you want or need, like knowing, and this is what we talk about, like I feel like there's a big difference between our heads, our mind's desire and our heart's desire. They're very different from each other. Hopefully they're on the same page. A lot
well,
of
that's
times.
the work, right? Is trying to get this on the same page.
But like, okay, so like pleasure versus happiness, right? Like pleasure is a very mental thing. Happiness is a heart thing, and they're different from each other.
Mm,
And so like so in any case, but if you don't know what you want or need, you know, there's no self to begin with. And so it like it can start, I just trying to say this because it can start really small. This is what I'm trying to say is like building our self-confidence can start very, very small. Um, and even if there's a vacancy of self with the practices of the meditations, it's like almost a self-discovery process.
yeah,
And there's almost with the meditations, it's like you're discovering more and more of like the true self within.
yeah. I think there's, I mean, when you think about self confidence, a lot of times you think about it's tied to accomplishments, like, okay, if you're able to do something, you're able to accomplish something, then, that gives you confidence. You can build on this. And I think that's true for meditation as well, because meditation is a skill. Um, it's a little bit harder with meditation sometimes because if you don't have a sense of like, well, what are the markers? What are the things you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
And a lot of times meditation is kind of mysterious, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
there's supposed to be nothing, you're just supposed to do nothing. No, meditation has markers, like there are skills you can get, and it's good to know what those are. I mean, I think we try to teach this way so that, I mean, the kind of meditation we teach, let's be honest, right? You might not be able to do it right away, right? Like it takes practice to do, and
Yeah.
hopefully that's something to aspire to. That's something to, oh yeah, I managed to do this. That's giving me confidence, right? Like
Right,
hey,
right.
you can do,
Yeah.
gives you
Yeah,
confidence.
no. 100%. I used to always fall asleep when I first started doing Harvard meditation.
Right.
I used to just
Very
like
common.
pass out. It is so funny.
Yeah.
But there is something to it. It's like you can't find your heartbeat, you can't find your heartbeat, and then suddenly you do. And as soon as you do, it's like you've already established like a strong bridge of connection to your like you're concentrating on your heart so much that you then develop a relationship with your heart. And then you're like, what does my heart actually want? And then you can actually feel what your heart actually wants, where your heart's actually guiding you to. And
Yeah.
there's this kind of like then it's like this like, can I believe in myself enough to like take my steps toward where my heart is guiding me to? And sometimes it's so big, um, it's such a big step that it's like we really do break the soul light, through our heart in order to be able to do it, in order to be able to go toward that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Yeah.
And there's something very powerful about just really developing the breath, developing the rhythm of the breath, that carries you through, that because doubt is something that is going to happen, right? Fear, doubt, anxiety, you know, these are, we might think of these like in some sense as kind of like being the opposite of self-confidence or faith, but the reality is a lot of times it's mixed in there, right? Like faith and doubt, I mean, these are, you're not really exploring, right? If you don't have doubts, you're not really pushing yourself, right? You're not really exploring the self, I mean, it should take you to that place. It should take you to, whenever you're growing, right? You
Yeah.
experience the limitation of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I'm just trying to imagine somebody that doesn't have any doubt. Um, and I mean, like that's like I feel like that's like out of completely being out of touch with our own vulnerabilities.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and so it'd be like being out of touch with what's like what do you really want instead of just playing it safe, you know?
And it's also so
Mm,
mental, right? Like of course you have doubts when you're
yeah.
in a mental place because this is what the mind does, right? Your mind considers different possibilities in different scenarios.
Yeah.
Um, and right, I mean, some of those are negative. Let's like be honest, right?
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like when you really drop into your heart, you really energize your heart.
Mhm.
I mean, all I can say is that you still have thoughts that maybe this won't go well, but it's like the energy is so strong, right? The energy can carry you through. Um, and it feels different to encounter those doubts in an energized place, right? You
Yeah. I It's like you know yourself suddenly. It's like you know who you really are
yeah,
in
yeah,
these deeper states of meditation. And then when you encounter your obstacles or when you encounter your doubts or your fears, it's like they have no wherewithal. They just dissipate. They disappear.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And sometimes that energy becomes so strong that you have these like incredible kind of thoughts that seem like crazy to even describe, because they're thoughts of such energy and power, and it's hard to even imagine that.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's like I'll give an example. I mean, so I remember being on retreat 10 years ago and feeling like my heart is just shining like the sun, like I could just shine that light on anything, and it's going to
Mm,
just dissolve. It's going to just nothing can withstand this. And I was just like, yes, this seems, in that state, this seems totally logical and reasonable, and yes, that's the way it is, and the way it's always has been and always will be and stuff. And
mm,
of course you pass out of that state and then you're like, wow, okay, I can't believe I was in that state. That's an incredible like thought to have, or just to know, right? To know that that's true. Um,
mm,
uh, so our states change is the main thing, right? Our energy changes, and but
mm.
it gives us a sense of what's possible. So,
Yeah. Let's do this. Let's meditate.
all right.
So, okay. I just think it's so funny, Asatar, that like you and I were always like, well, the answer is God realization. Like, like, just like every class, it's like, well, if you really want this, this is the way. It just
Well, you
seems
have
so
to admit it's an answer that's not given very often, right? And
It's just like, well, you have to go to the end of the road. The beginning won't
yeah,
do.
like you guys
Uh,
thought, oh, we're meditation teachers, so we're going to say it's self care. But you know what? What is self? That's the question.
That's a different maybe we'll do self-care next week.
We'll do it. Yeah, that's another class.
So it's a different topic. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, everybody. Okay, people, get ready. Are you ready? Okay, so with the self-confidence, I want you to have a very, very strong spine. So, if you need to prop yourself up on some pillows, do that. If you can stand it, sit in a chair or on a cushion. If you have so much self confidence that you then say to me from the ethers, you say no, and I support you, and you can lay down. But otherwise, let's get our spine very strong. And you want to even sit in a way that's self confident. So sometimes it can be this biofeedback system. Let's sit in a way where we're sitting in our own confidence. The chest is lifting, your sternum is lifting, your shoulders are gently back. not forced back, but just kind of resting back. And just see what that does for you. Having your spine upright, having your heart buoyant, and your shoulders are not hiding your heart. See what that does for you, this posture. And I don't often do this, but as a matter of intention today, I'm going to invite you to imagine yourself like having a lion's heart. And just a brief way of setting our attunement. You know, the way that the lion sits is with such majesty. They know, they've evolved slower than humans, and so they've earned their majesty. And humans, we kind of skipped a few steps in our evolution, and so we have more fear in us. But the lion's a good attunement for remembering this inherent feeling of power and this knowingness. And that's really what it takes. It takes this feeling of becoming a lion heart, even if we start like more like a rabbit heart. And a knowing of your own majesty, and knowing of your own connection to the divine, that the divine is within the depths of your heart. And now that we've set our intention, if you haven't already, start to deepen your breath. Imagine if, as if your breath is amplifying this sense of inner power, this sense of knowingness, knowing, remembering who you are on some deep organic level. Not knowing with your mind, but knowing with your deeper heart. I really like this idea of almost envisioning or imagining it first before, maybe even before we even have it. There's something to that. You do have it within you, but it's this way of bringing it out more. While you deepen your breath, you want to have this full belly breathing. You go to the lowest abdomen with the stream of your breath. And then you allow the breath to broaden from the depth out to your sides of your body. And then it's almost like filling up the back of your ribs, but even below the ribs first. Filling up the sides of the ribs. And then it's this very slow swell into your heart. And it's that slow build. There's something about the slow build. It's like when a person has enough patience to just take one step at a time. They're not trying to look for that instant gratification. They're not trying to get the cheap way to the end of the road. They're like, No, no, no. I'm gonna lay the cinder blocks because I know I'm gonna build a house that's gonna last for a long time. And that's the way you want to build your breath. I know we talk a lot about the enlightened state, but it's all within every single step and the integrity within every step we take. There's something about the patience of that, the patience to go one mala bead or prayer bead at a time for each breath or for each mantra, knowing that you're going to do thousands and thousands of mantra, but you're only going to do one at a time. And that faith in each moment of each breath. And as you exhale, let's exhale as if our heart's light is shining the way Asatar described this. So you connect with the depth of your heart, the center of your heart. And as you exhale, imagine or try to feel as if your heart is exhaling in all directions, as if your heart's energy field is getting more prominent. You're becoming more present, more yourself. What would it feel like if you remembered the divinity within you? Very important. It's really, every chakra matters, but I don't want this to be a mental exercise. Feel it in your heart of hearts, to know deep within your core your own link to the all, the divinity within you. How would you be? What would it feel like? Try to emanate that right now by feeling that within your heart. Really try to see if you can actually feel your actual heartbeat tonight. So we give these options of the pulse points, but I want you to stay in this place you found and listen to see, can you feel your heartbeat as you breathe full deep breath in and complete breath out. But I don't want you to bow yet or bring your shoulders forward. Keep lifting your sternum. Maybe you can bring fingertips to sternum. Try to sense your heartbeat as you breathe. For those of you that can't feel your heartbeat yet, do you have faith that your heartbeat is there? Would you keep seeking? Would you keep concentrating because you have faith that your heartbeat is there and that you have the ability to develop the nerves to feel it? We must have confidence in our inherent life forces. And this is a good starting point, especially if you can't feel your heartbeat yet. See if you can have conviction. Can you have the conviction to keep seeking it, to keep listening, knowing that it is there? It's only a matter of time before your body catches up with the intention and concentration you've set with your mind. Now, here's a real risk to take. I want you to drop so deeply into your heart and so deeply into your center that it becomes all of you. So we're passing the reins of control from our mind to our heart now. Instead of listening for your heartbeat, I want you to allow your heart to finally speak. Allow your heart to be the strongest part of you. Because it is. Stop reining it in. You can handle it, whatever it is that's in your heart. You can handle it. Maybe not your mind, but your heart certainly can. Your heart can handle all that it holds within it. Let your heart get stronger, bigger. Allow it to become an all-pervasive force. And then you want to breathe in rhythm with this all pervasive force within you, because now your heart is in charge, and all the other parts of you are going to follow its lead. Your heart becomes the metronome for the music of your very life. So as you connect to your heartbeat, if you really must, you can definitely do pulse point at this point, but try to feel it. Try to feel it and then breathe for 8 heartbeats in and 8 heartbeats out. I'm going to offer a few different deities to place on your heartbeat. One of them would be Shiva. So every heartbeat, if you want to connect to Shiva, Shiva is the god of power, the god of destruction, the god of change. And if you want to connect to Shiva's energy, you would, at each heartbeat, you would, as if your heart was remembering who it is on this level. You can always choose a different word, a different energy, but your heart is remembering who it is on a different level, and it says, Shiva, 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 Shiva. And then alternatively, the feminine form would be something like Kali, who is not afraid of any demons. Okay, just a few more breaths here. Good. And then before ending this meditation, feel the effect that this has had on you. And then I want to give you this last little token is that we only went to an archetypal energy. We didn't even go all the way to this God realization. We just went to one stepping stone further of an archetypal energy. And so the next one would be, placing a word that means God onto your heartbeat. And when you're ready, go ahead and thank yourself for practicing. Thank yourself for having the faith in yourself to practice the way you just did. Knowing that each practice counts toward that larger goal of realization, truth realization. All right. And then when you're ready, move your body and open up your eyes. Mm.
Nice meditation. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you. It's lovely to meditate with everyone that's here. Felt really nice.
I remember being, this is, all of this meditation is like really brings back memories for me for some
Mm.
reason. I think just the theme, because I have a very strong memory of being, I think I was 16, uh, maybe I was 15, I don't know, but the memory is like, I was like, oh, I'm not very confident and
Mhm.
I need self-confidence. That's, I said this to myself and, and, it was interesting. It was like, okay, I want to remake myself, and
Mhm.
I thought I remember now one of the first actions that I took is I said like, who walks in a way that's confident,
Yeah,
that
totally.
I knew or that I could see, and I was like, oh, this guy Nate, and this guy's got I like that he walks is very confident, I'm gonna walk like Nate,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
and and who sits in a way that's confident, who speaks, and it was like this, right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
and it was like do the outward things, and then maybe I'll feel that from within because it felt otherwise too mysterious, um,
Totally. Yeah.
and then over time, I think my interest kind of wandered, and it was like, well, what can I cultivate on an inner level, that isn't
Mhm.
so much about these appearances, although I think it does help, right? I mean,
Oh,
like,
for sure. Yeah,
if you sit in a way that feels like, here I am, right? There's a confidence in that, and
yeah.
it does help,
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
so it's kind of like there's all these different levels, and it's like whatever you feel like you can do or whatever you feel like is important for you, I think that's an important thing to follow, so
Mhm.
I just want to encourage everyone what you're getting, in the meditation, um, that's meant for you, right? That's something
Mhm.
to listen to. Uh,
Mhm.
so, oh, Chakra has here moderate thunder and rain in Reston, Virginia, within 1 minute of Leah starting meditation.
Thank you, Shakur. That's awesome. I love that.
Isn't it funny these moments of synchronicity, right? Like when these things
Yeah.
happen together, and then
Yo, whoa. I love that. Like, I love it when, yeah. Then you really feel it. You feel that power, that
yeah,
connection to all things. Yeah,
yeah. I can kind of feel the vibe of that rain just from hearing that, like,
totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice to sit in the rain. And then I was also just thinking, like, how do I relate to this now? Now I'm 51. Okay, so it's been a while since I
You're
was.
51? Oh my
Yeah, yeah.
gosh.
Um, and
Okay.
how do I feel about this topic of like confidence? And it's just interesting because it's like you get to middle age and you have a very different kind of confidence, the confidence that I
Mhm.
had. And, like I decided I need to be more confident. And then I think within a few years, I started to actually really feel it, um, and I like legitimately was confident, but it was untested, like I was confident in my potential, let's say, right? But
Yeah,
there's something different about getting to middle age, and then you've actually done things, you've survived things, you've experienced pain, you've experienced heartbreak,
yeah.
um, you've accomplished things, so I think that is a very different kind of confidence. It feels different to me.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
how I feel about myself now. Do you feel that same way?
Oh, yeah. Well, because 'cause you've had enough chance to test yourself. Like, it's almost like you have to be willing to test yourself out, and you have to be willing to fail. Because the thing is like, the true self-confidence isn't so much about only having success, it's about meeting the obstacles and then going through them and discovering that you can go through your obstacles, you know? And so
Right.
by the time you're our age, you've gone through a lot of obstacles and you can kind of look back at like how you did handle those. Like, so even that's like a really good way of thinking about it because sometimes you don't have a lot of sense of self-confidence, but it's like if you think about it, if you think about how much you've been through and that you've gotten to where you are, you can start to see, oh, I did figure it out. Oh, I went through that one thing and I figured it out. I'm still here, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, you've had like more of that testing, and so you get to know yourself more. But like you don't want to like so even if you're 70 years old and you're watching this, maybe you're going to live to 120, right? So it's like 50 more years. And so I don't want you to think like if you're 70 years old and you have been holding yourself back, don't let yourself keep that rhythm. You got to break that through and believe in yourself no matter where you are. I don't care if you're 17 or 70, like wherever you are, you got to believe in your heart and like allow your heart to tell you what's up. Like it's knocking, knocking, knocking. Let it tell you where it wants you to go, and don't be safe and don't play it safe because that is exactly how you discover what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And it takes a lot of courage to even listen, let alone follow that voice from within.
Because if I've had a lot of failures, which I have, right? If I've had a lot of failures and I listen to those failures as my mirror of myself, I might get too afraid to try again. And then what? Am I even alive anymore? You know? And
Right.
so I want to say, don't be afraid. Like, failure does not matter. You just keep going. That's what matters, is to keep going, no matter how many failures.
And sometimes just endurance gives you confidence, right? Like
Yeah.
I've, I've had a lot thrown at me, and I'm still here. That kind of feeling, and it's not only just doing, that gives you that sense. It's sometimes just enduring. Sometimes it's surviving, especially if you've had a lot of difficulty, and especially if you had that in your early life. That can really hold you back in terms of what you're able to accomplish. But then again, you face some real pain. So
Yeah.
that has value too.
Yeah, that like consistency, right? Like okay, so some of the classes that I teach, they don't always like God isn't always in the room, I don't always nail the thing on the head. And yet I go again, you know, and then I show up again,
Up
and
again.
like that show up again. So it's such a like that's such a big part of it is just showing up again and again.
I know you don't always hit a home run, but I don't know. I don't believe that. I think you do.
Okay, well, let's listen to Mr. Oster, Dr. Osterbear, give us our next meditation.
All
Okay.
right. Well, so we'll start with that good upright posture, that sinking into your sits bones and opening the chest rather than hunching, rather than hiding, sitting in a way that is upright, that is majestic, and cultivating that feeling of here I am, this is me. Self confidence doesn't mean making a bunch of audacious claims. This is what it might look like on the surface, but the deeper it goes, the less you have to claim, the more you might find yourself understating things. Because the deeper that knowing goes, the deeper that faith goes, the deeper that self confidence goes, the less showy it needs to be, the more quiet it can be. A mountain doesn't need to be screaming, here I am, but the mountain is there nonetheless. Oh, I hope you see your posture as part of this art form, that you sit in a way that feels majestic. It feels like you rule your kingdom or your realm. And within that structure, within that majesty, try to relax into it as much as you can. Relax all of the muscles that are not needed to keep you upright. And begin to breathe in and out of your heart. Breathing in and feeling as though it is your heart that is taking in energy, breath, revitalization, light, love, and breathing out, that energy is flowing through your body, your mind, your emotions, connecting you to your soul and spirit. And we like to work by making the breath deep. So breathing in and allowing your belly to expand, to blow up like a balloon. Breathing out, contract your abdominal muscles, bring your belly button toward your spine. So there should be a lot of movement in your belly as you breathe. Perhaps a lot more than you're used to, maybe more than you allow normally. Because normally we keep our bellies very armored, very hard. We don't let our bellies expand. So breathe as if no one is watching. Breathe as if you are utterly unconcerned about looking fat, or about being soft, being vulnerable, being open. This is your time to do that. And then we work on making the breath slow, so extending the exhalation, breathing out more, letting the breath have an even, slow flow. Breathing in and maintaining that flow, not letting the breath become jagged, not letting the breath rush in. Even, smooth, slow flow to the breath. And though you are focused on your belly and the slowness of your breath and making it even and so on, still maintain that focus that it is your heart that is breathing. As you breathe in, your heart takes in energy. As you breathe out, your heart radiates that energy. And you may feel that both sides of the breath work on your faith. And as you breathe in, you receive, and you receive much more with this deep, slow, conscious, heart centered breath that you're doing now. You may begin to feel like you receive so much that it touches upon a feeling of, do I deserve this? Am I worthy of this? Can I receive this? You may have some self imposed limitations, blockages, ways that you hold yourself back from receiving this essence of life, of goodness, of love. And so there's a faith in that, a faith of just being willing to receive that, to lay aside for the moment a question of, do I deserve this? Am I worthy of this? Breath is love, and love does not concern itself with worthiness. You would not say to a baby, I will only love you if you're worthy of it. No, the baby has not earned it, right? No one earns love. You just give it anyway. It doesn't have anything to do with that, does it? And as you breathe out, you may feel that working on your faith, your self confidence as well. Can I radiate? Can I take up space? Can I shine? Can I speak my voice? Can I speak my truth? Can I hold my boundaries? Can I say no to that which is not right? Because we're seeing thousands and thousands of very brave students confronting their own administrations and the entire war machine and saying, no, I do not want my university, my dollars, I do not want them to go toward profiting from war, profiting from genocide. And it takes great courage and great self confidence to occupy that place. Now tune into the beating of your heart. Feel the beating of your heart if you can. And bring that heartbeat into balance with your breath so that you're breathing in the same number of beats as you're breathing out. Now you come to the part of the practice where not everyone can do this right away. You might not be able to feel your heartbeat right away. You can place your hand on your chest You can lightly press with your fingertips. And if all else fails, you can just imagine what you think the rhythm of your heart might be. And make your breath rhythmic. Make your breath the same number of beats as you breathe in as it is as you breathe out. And if you practice this, you really feel that this is important for you to get, for you to master. I would like you to be able to do 8 beats in and 8 beats out. And then really work on making the breath full. Really squeeze the abdominal muscles. Breathe out all the way and notice that this pushes you even more. This makes every part of the meditation bigger, more powerful, more intense, but also more stable. Your breath is like a ship, and if you make your breath bigger, you have a bigger ship. A bigger ship is more stable, it's less apt to be rocked by the waves. And as you breathe in, begin now to expand not only the belly, but also the intercostal muscles. Allow the rib cage to open, allow the chest to open. So now you're breathing in a range that is between the whole area between your pelvis and your collarbone. And you should feel some movement in that whole area. You are retraining your breath to be much bigger, much smoother, much slower than ever before. And then on your next inhalation, as you breathe in, fill your lungs with breath, and then hold the breath at the top of the inhalation. Hold the breath and feel that energy of the breath that is contained, that you can hold. And then breathe out and continue. So now your breath has a 3-part rhythm. There is breathing out, turning the inhalation directly, breathing right in. Don't hold at the end of the exhalation, only hold at the end of the inhalation. So breathe out and breathe in, then hold, then breathe out, then breathe in and hold, and so on. Now you may find that you can feel your heartbeat much better when you hold the breath. It might really come into your consciousness because now you don't have the motion going on in your torso. And you have the pressure of that held breath. You might feel how holding the breath is developing you, is allowing you to hold more, that it is strengthening you from within. You know, it is said that there are no shortcuts in life. And that's true. But in a way, this is a shortcut because if you develop control over the breath, which is itself an accomplishment, so I do not put that down as an accomplishment. It's a great accomplishment. I have found that to be like the keystone kind of accomplishment. It's different from other things. It's so powerful. You are developing self-control at such a fundamental level that it seems to unlock that feeling of faith and self-confidence more than anything I've known, any other single thing. That's in my experience. Perhaps your experience is different, but that's mine. Develop the breath and you turbocharge every other single kind of development that you can think of. It's that powerful, it's that fundamental. Now we're changing the rhythm of the breath here from a two-part rhythm where the inhalation and the exhalation are the same length to now a three-part rhythm that has the breath being held in it as well. Now, I have not said how long that period of holding should be, only that you can experiment with it. So you might experiment with making the holding the same length as the inhalation. So that would be breathing out for 8, breathing in for 8, and then holding for 8. And this makes a three-part rhythm. And you might experiment with what we call the square breath, which is holding for the same amount of time, the same number of beats as the inhalation and the exhalation combined. So that would be breathing out for 8 beats, breathing in for 8 beats, and holding for 16 beats. And this is a more advanced practice that takes time to develop and even more time to master. But as I say, there should be signposts along the way. There should be a sense that you are developing a skill here. And when you develop a skill, it allows you to do certain things. So when you can maintain this square breath pattern for 10 breaths in a row, it means you have achieved a certain level of skill at this practice. And I encourage you to work on that if you feel drawn to. Hazrat Khan once came to his teacher and asked his teacher for a blessing. And his teacher said, "May your faith increase." So Adonai Khan at first thought to himself, "Is my faith so weak that I should be given this blessing?" And as he thought about it more over years, he came to understand that that is the greatest blessing that he could have been given. Faith, that self-confidence is the greatest of blessings. And so I wish that for you as well. May your faith increase. And we'll end our meditation there.
Wow, thank you. Hmm.
Hmm.
I could do anything now. Hold me back. I'm ready.
That is how it should feel, right? That's what we want.
Yeah, I'm ready.
We want
Ready,
to.
steady, go.
Well, we're out of time now, so I hope you guys go out and do great things that I know you're all capable of.
Go do
And thank you
something.
so much
Go do
for being with us.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Keep on practicing. We'll
Mm.
see you all next week. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
You're awesome. Bye-bye. Okay.